Welcome to episode 3 of Let's Talk Hoops with myself, Chris Foss, and Kumbeno Memory. Man, had a really good conversation on this one. I think you guys are going to be really excited about. Has Stephen Holt, who's going into his 10th year playing professionally, but man, really made a name for himself with how he's won at the different levels from what he did at Jesuit High School, being two-time state champion, and man, that jump started a run where they ended up winning 4 in a row. And he was state player of the year there, to him kind of getting things going at St. Mary's. There with Mickey McConnell and Matthew Dellavedova, and playing a couple NCAA tournaments there, and he was actually he graduated 10th all time in scoring at St. Mary's, which for a program like that is really big. But Benny's just coming out of it. What were some of your takeaways from the talk with Stephen?
Stephen Holt is one of the most self-aware people that I've ever talked to. Like just hearing that, and at each stage of his career, he kind of knew what his strengths were, what his deficiencies were, and working on in the background. It's our old adage. We talk about do what you do well and stay away from what you don't do well. And then obviously being detailed about his process and routine of what made him successful and trusting in that. But one thing that stood out to me is when he talked about averaging, 12, 13 points and being the state player of the year and winning the state champion, and saying that there'll probably never be another person like that. I think that that's something that somebody should want to attain, that being like the ultimate team guy, leader. It's a sustainable role. That's why so to hear him like basically give the blueprint of that, yeah, you better be excited to hear some real gems.
Man, I remember coaching against him when I was at Southridge and he was at Jesuit. This was his senior year, and seeing who won state player of the year. And this is a time in Oregon where at the 6A level, Garrett Jackson, who ends up going to USC. Prior to that's in the league. Jordan Rayleigh, who's at Beaverton, ends up going to Iowa State, is in the league.
His teammate,
his teammate Kyle Wiltshire, who goes to Kentucky, wins the national championship, then goes to Gonzaga. I mean, to win league player of the year at that time was an incredible feat. But to win state player of the year when talent in the state of Oregon was probably as high as it's been. I don't know if it's been that high since.
wow,
To do that, and I remember that, and I remember looking stuff before we had the conversation with him, and him being like 13, 6, and 5, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. But man, he just made such an impact on the game whenever he was in it. Obviously won the state championships, but I think him being a 6'4" guard that knew how to use his length and what he did defensively and how to run a team, which is stuff that he hit on. Part of the reason the numbers were what they were was he's only playing 15 to 20 minutes a game because that team played so well that there weren't a whole lot of close games that they were playing. So, maybe you put them in a different spot, the numbers are better, but like he mentioned, winning was the priority at such a young age, and I think consistently knowing who he is as a player and what he brought to a team really spoke volumes to that and helped him reach some of these goals that he's got to. But no, you guys are going to be really excited about the conversation, but we're also now in the middle of July. This is like basketball off-season utopia right now. We have July live periods are going on. Peach Jam just finished. Adidas Championship just finished. Under Armour just finished. And we have Summer League jumping off at the same time. Man, what's caught your eyes as we've had that? I know you got the popcorn behind you. I'm sure you've had a couple of bags as you've been diving into the games and seeing what's been on, but what's been catching your eye?
Yeah, well, I got to watch obviously the Rockets the other day and what they're doing. Man, Jabari Smith looked like he'd been working on his game. And just like we were talking about how long they are at each position of what they've acquired and how you can use them defensively. And then obviously our relationships there with Cleat, Ime Udoka, Garrett Jackson, Ben Sullivan, and Mike Moser. Marquise Noel looked really good the other day with the Toronto Raptors. Man, the Blazers, they need to work on that brand. The brand didn't look the best the other day. And then I was just watching the Magic and the Pacers. Pacers were playing really good, a really good brand of basketball. These teams here in Summer League it's the same as AAU and anywhere, but like the ones that are willing to go play team basketball, or is it just 15 players on the team that are all trying to showcase their individual abilities?
Man,
You're only going to be here for like a week, like 8 days or 9 days or something.
the parallels are crazy because everyone's trying to get something out of it. But how do you go about doing it? Are we going to play till the last week of stuff and really give ourselves an opportunity because we're playing in the championship a couple Mondays from now? Or are we just getting this quick 5 games? Maybe I play 3 of them. I got my numbers. Did you get yours? No. Okay. Well, too bad, but I got mine. Where I think, like you're hitting on that, that's a really big part of it. And man, I want you to be able to share kind of some of the stuff from Ime's interview where he talked about taking over a new program, a new team, and kind of what their process has been with that, being able to set what the expectations are for how they go about doing things. Now with him being there as head coach and the new staff that's there.
Changing the culture. He talked about changing habits. That's where you have to attack it from the epicenter and the bullseye. And look, this is all the same stuff that we did with creating and changing a culture. I want to change, but creating a culture with I-5 and changing the culture of AAU basketball, at least around our community, and then doing that with Hoop Dreams basketball. But yeah, he means what he says. He's going to do what he says he's going to do. He's done it at every spot. He's a serious-minded cat about teaching basketball IQ and doing things the right way, defensive-minded. But it's like we break the game to simplicity. He's going to teach these guys how to play real good team defense, and then offensively space the floor out, move without the ball, move the ball amongst each other. So play a team brand of basketball. It sounds like, oh, that's really simple, but if you can get those guys at that level to do that, but you have to be consistently bringing that message. You can't just talk about that in a meeting and then go that's got to be something that you're doing in your workouts, in the meetings, in the shoot arounds, in the practices and everything to hammer those habits home.
No, it's huge. And obviously having, I think everyone talks about the staff having familiarity with them, but I think also just, Jabari Smith's going to be someone that's going to play a role. Obviously, Young Thompson's going to be someone that's going to have to play one, and they're getting the opportunity to be hands-on with them right now and set what those expectations are. And so then those guys aren't behind because they're young. They have a chance to be a leg up as they get there. And obviously, the vets that they brought in, I think, probably will have that same mindset with the Van Vliets and the Dylan Brooks. And you think what you want, but man, those 2 guys are definitely going to compete. Jeff Green, and man, they had a chance to go and show their coaching chops with a draw up and a buzzer beater right off the get go. So man, they're earning their way right now. So man, we're really excited about this conversation though with Stephen Holt. Man, it's a great one. As you guys get into the episode, make sure to leave comments below here on YouTube or whatever it is that you're watching it. Man, and enjoy it. Without further ado, here's episode 3 with Stephen Holt. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Hoops with Kumbeno Memory and myself, Chris Foss. Today we have a special guest with us, Stephen Holt, state champion and player of the year at Portland's Jesuit High School, first team all WCC member and WCC tournament champion at St. Mary's, and just finished his 9th season as a pro. Last 3, he's been in Romania holding it down. S-Dot, man, welcome on with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me. Always good to catch up and talk some IQ.
No doubt. Well, Stephen, before we get going with anything, man, I wanted to ask you, when did you fall in love with basketball?
Man, I think growing up, I just loved being active and playing sports. obviously basketball. I love baseball and soccer. But for whatever reason, basketball was the one I was always just a little bit better at growing up. And, credit to my dad. Obviously, he played in college at University of Portland. And he was the one to put the ball in my hands. So I think maybe like fifth grade is when I truly like, all right, this is going to be my sport that I'm going to really focus on. And I think that's right around the time when I gave up soccer, playing club soccer with FC Portland. And then I continued baseball all the way up until my freshman year at Jesuit. That's when I stopped and then solely focused on basketball. But I think probably around fifth grade is when I knew basketball was going to be my main sport.
And soccer's in the family too, right? Sister played soccer.
Yeah, so she was throughout the whole entire time with FC Portland Academy. She played at St. Mary's for 2 years, and then she stopped after that, and was focused on getting her degree. And she's done a phenomenal job with that. She just last year graduated from USC with her master's, and she's holding it down at Nike. So I got the plug at the employee store. But if you're not from Portland, if you don't have the plug, so. But yeah, no, she's doing really well.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, man, you just hit on the stuff at Jesuit, getting there as a freshman and be able to really focus on basketball. Obviously, man, being there with Gene Potter, who's, man, if you're from the state of Oregon, or I think if you're on the West Coast, man, that name means a whole lot. But just talk to us a little bit, kind of, what you had a chance to be able to learn from him. Obviously, man, a really deep team all the years that you were there, and so having to fit in with something more than just yourself. So, man, talk a little about what that time was for you and some of the stuff you learned from Coach Potter.
Man, Jesuit was a phenomenal experience. I mean, we obviously had a ton of success on the floor, winning, a couple state titles, a couple of championships in the Metro League, and just being in that atmosphere, that winning mentality. I think that's kind of, fit my personality and who I am as a player. At the end of the day, for me, it was never about stats. And you could look at that up in high school. Like, it's a little sidetrack, but like, I averaged, I think, like 13 or 14 points in high school, and I was a state player of the year. Like, I don't think that'll ever happen again. And that just credits to, who I was as a player in high school. It was all about the little things, defending. Like, I was picking up 94 feet for 4 quarters and in that Jesuit press, and just trying to lead our guys to, a championship and stuff like that. But, when push come to shove, when the games, mattered, I was that leader and that scorer, and just trying to, facilitate in that facet. But I think that's just also credit to Coach Potter. I mean, as you alluded to earlier with your question, I mean, it's all about the name on the front being with Jesuit. It's all who can you do for your teammates, just making the right plays, playing unselfish. And I think that just helped my, again, just who I was as a person, just how I gravitate to the game and stuff. And, we still talk to this day. I haven't got to check with him with Coach this summer yet. I usually try and at least catch at least one summer league game when I'm back here, but my timeline hasn't enabled me to do that. I think obviously summer league's done now, so players are focused on AAU. But yeah, Jesuit was just a phenomenal experience, and just really grounded me as a player and as a human, and just trying to basically win. I mean, that was just what drove me in high school, just doing everything I could to win, and again, be a good teammate. So that's kind of what drove me.
Man, we need a Potter story, man. He's wired a little bit different than everybody else. I think if you're winning as much as he does, man, you do that. But the same guy who will sit in the stands and run the score clock during a summer league game, most coaches aren't going to do that. Like, my man's just wired a little bit differently. Where obviously winning is the big thing, but I think the development part and how he's building this program and culture. But man, we done heard the stories of, man, if you're not going and practicing the right way, he'll pull somebody up from the JV court and send somebody back down. Man, just give us a Potter story that you could think of that helps describe Coach.
Oh man, this is pretty funny that I think about this. So I can't remember if it was my junior or senior season, and we're heading into the start of the playoffs. So it was like one of our maybe last few practices at Jesuit. It might have been my senior year, but Jesuit, obviously we had a strict accessory code. Like, we couldn't wear like black socks or sleeves, not even to practice, but let alone games. So not even practice, we couldn't wear, black socks, sleeves, or headbands, or even dry fits or t-shirts underneath our practice uniforms. I think that's changed a little bit, but I remember one day, like, we just decided, this was one of our last few practices. This is for sure my senior year. we just wanted to at least wear a headband and just long sleeves and just like do what Gene probably would hate us to do. And we did that. And I remember he wasn't in the gym yet, and we all, bunch of us, all pretty much half the varsity team, were just wearing accessories and t-shirts and whatever. And he just walks in the night gym and just doesn't say anything. He just looks at us. And he's like, and like we knew exactly what he was thinking in that moment. Like, fellas, like, what are we doing? Like, we haven't won the championship yet. Like, I know this is one of our last few practices at Jesuit. Like, we need to like, reel in, focus and stuff. And just the look on his face, like, I'll always remember that. Like, he just told us to go back in the locker room and change and get ready for practice. So I'll always remember that story.
Ain't
Man,
got no time for this shit, is what he was saying. That was what his
Yeah,
face.
it's all business. So that was pretty funny moment.
Hey, we went really fast, but you said that 5th grade when you came to love the game. I'm not sure if you remember back 5th, 6th grade when you was with the Hoop Kings,
Mm-hmm.
who was coming to do your workouts and your practices. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Man, so yeah, so 5th grade, so I was playing, local Murray Hill hoops. I grew up in Beaverton and Murray Hill, and my dad was a coach, and I wasn't truly on that AAU, circuit team environment. And so 5th grade is when, I joined Hoop Kings and played for 2 teams. And that was when I knew like I had to take basketball seriously if I wanted to, play in college and then maybe reach, the next level NBA or play overseas. So again, for me, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I've been surrounded by tremendous mentors, coaches, and just people in my life that have allowed me to grow as a person on and off the court and have success. So I'm very thankful for obviously you guys here, different parts of my basketball journey. But again, it all comes full circle. So it's now my turn, excuse me, to share my story and help the younger generation that's coming up to help them reach their goals.
Heck yeah. Or somebody else that's in your same position as you. We're
Mm-hmm.
trying to attack the players, coaches, and parents.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 3 pillars of this ecosystem. And if one of them don't work right, this thing, that's why it's feeling a little rickety right now, right?
It's all off. I mean, if one thing is off, it's the whole system is off. So, for me, just growing up, obviously my parents supported me with anything I decided to do. Making the decision to go to Jesuit, sticking with basketball. Just strictly speaking in high school terms, I mean, I had a great coach and Gene, who was a great mentor to me at the time, and obviously after, in college and until now, we still have a good relationship. And just the people that I played with. I mean, everyone knows, what Jesuit brings, that brand of basketball. So everything was in line. And again, it was just up to me to either reach my potential and work hard or don't. So
man, that brand of basketball. I know if it was an open gym set, I'm taking Elo and S dot. Man, forget where I'm at. I remember it being at Southridge runs. Be like, forget all these cats that might be here. I'm taking the guys who win and play the good brand.
I know it. I did a couple runs at some high schools, but I remember just with the whole recruiting, just my sophomore junior year, that period, man, our open gyms were popping. I mean, obviously, Kyle Wilcher was there with me. We're bouncing off each other with recruitment, so we'd have coaches left and right, just always in open gyms, and man, just that whole experience was amazing. Just I remember one time like just Ben Howland at UCLA just randomly walks into the gym, and out of nowhere, and man, I gotta focus now. He's here to watch, Kyle or me. You never know who's gonna walk into the gym. And I remember at this one time as well, like what's his name? I had to scramble a random open gym because Coach Few from Gonzaga just wanted to pop by and see me and Kyle. So we had to change our whole open gym schedule for that week, and he popped by with him and one of his assistants. But yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody was in those open gyms. Pac-12, Pac-10 at the time, obviously WCC, all those schools from the West Coast were recruiting us. So we had the gym full.
That's a good segue, Foster.
Man, what? Before we dive to that, man, I want to hear about some of these I-5 stories. I mean, you talked about having some of the mentors that you did mean, obviously we got guys that are, man, some of your peers, but also coaches who are now, man, with the Rockets. But obviously, kind of the start of all that was with your group. Man, just tell us a little bit kind of what, first memories that come to your mind. We talk about them I-5 days, both the summer going into your junior year and then obviously going into your senior year, because there were both of them. I guess just start with,
Sophomore year.
at the beginning of the sophomore year, kind of how that transition was. I know it was a jump kind of doing that because I think you started in the summer with stuff, right?
He was with another
Yeah.
team. With
I mean, it's funny how life works out and how this whole recruiting and college thing plays out. I know Beno will know this story once I say it, but at the time I wasn't playing with the, I don't know, it was like Team Jones, I-5, like the top tier Portland AU team. I was playing mainly with some Jesuit guys and some other guys from like Salem and whatnot. But I was playing 16s, but Beno gave me a call towards the end of that summer. I think it was the Double Pump LA, Best of Summer, some tournament, one of those in
talked
LA.
to your dad earlier in the year. I talked to your dad because I thought because you'd already been coming in the gym working out with me and stuff. So I just thought, oh man, this is easy. Instead of talking to you back in like October, November when the season started, I your dad in January, and he's like, oh, no, we already got him. We're with Josh Under, those guys. I was like, oh. I thought, well, this is 17s. Yeah, no, we're okay. We're just fine. I was like, damn, man. It was one of the things where you're already in the gym with me. This wasn't like I would have had work. I just needed to talk to you about it. And I assumed being a young coach, which is why I be seeing all this stuff now and people be feeling some type of way. I was a young coach and just assumed shit. But which set up what you're about to talk to. But I had talked to your dad in January and he said, here, this is where there's an opening. He can do this. So we already knew that far ahead.
So
might not have told your ass.
So then, I mean, I joined the 17s team. So I played up just for that one tournament in LA. And before that summer, I was mainly, just had a couple of local offers. Obviously, University of Portland offered me pretty early, having the ties to that school. Maybe one or two other small schools. And then, I played up with the 17s with I-5 that tournament, and we went all the way did we make it to the championship? We got second, I think, in that tournament.
We lost in the champ. You remember what happened?
DC Assault, right?
With Rodney Magruder.
Yeah.
Gosh, what was the dude, that big guy they had that was a McDonald's All-American, and he went to Kansas State with Rodney Magruder. So Rodney Magruder was like,
Curtis something?
Curtis Kelly?
No, I don't think it was him.
No,
whatever.
No.
Name, you know who I'm talking about, man. This dude was a McDonald's All-American.
Yeah.
Magruder was the top.
The guard, I'd go the main guard. I remember that. Yeah.
But regardless, they had done a back door. The little guard went to the hole and dropped off a back door to Rodney Magruder, and he caught it, laid it up on Potsy, and then they threw it down. You caught it, went, and missed a 3 at the buzzer. So we had lost to them by 26 in pool play, lost by 2 in the championship game today.
That's crazy. So, I mean, again,
like 3 sophomores.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, that run alone, just me playing up 1 year and us having that success. A few days later, maybe a week later, you give me a call, and I'll always remember. I might have kept this sheet, but you handed my dad or somebody a piece of paper, and I legit, not lying to you right now, after just one tournament, I had a list of coaches you told me to contact from literally every Pac-10 school and every WCC school. It was something else. Like, to that day, like that experience and just me being ready to join a new group, play my game, and win, and to get how far we did, that just set up my whole college recruitment. Because after that tournament, it was just night and day. Now all these big schools were trying to contact me, and the recruiting trail just went just like that. So again, man, thank you so much for that opportunity. And again, it's just to all the players out there, you just got to take advantage whenever your number is called, and you never know who's watching and stuff. So again, I think that my high school, I pinpoint that moment is what really helped my recruiting.
Heck yeah. I was going to say, it wasn't like you were scoring 20 points, 40 points.
Mhm.
Man, he made our team exponentially better from just playing a simple brand of basketball, winning brand of basketball.
Mhm.
I remember we'd be beating some teams going to that championship by 20 and 30. I'm thinking to myself, are we this good? Like, why are we doing it this easy? But when they playing team ball, breaking a press easy, like things that a normal team would do against, if you guys enjoy playing together, that's like futile.
Mhm.
But just you made such a difference because we had a chance to bring you two because Nigel stayed back in Vegas to play 8th grade or 7th,
Mhm.
whatever. He's gonna play his middle school thing back there. I remember being mad at his Verge, like, Verge, man, he need to come here. But we still had the opportunity. So it's like it just worked out. He got to do that, and you got to come over and change that whole trajectory. I remember I wasn't going to lose that
Crazy.
opportunity after I didn't do my due diligence early. That's why I came with that sheet. Like,
Hand me that piece of paper, and then obviously the rest is history. You know, I played, you know, I-5 of 17s that next year, and we had, again, a ton of success. We were ranked in the country, and you know, we had success at Peach Jam and all sorts of these tournaments that are still going on to this day. So definitely my AU experience was you know, well worth it. And again, we had a hard working group of players. Like we were talented, but we came together with the 17 level and was able to, you know, get scholarships and chips. So it was good.
Man, I
that's
was
all.
just gonna say, ships aside, man, because I know the biggest piece for Beans, I know for Ime as well, was the development part of it. Man, talk to us a little like, man, with the practices and the development, like how that part
And
changed your game.
Kendra,
Obviously, there was the scholarships that changed kind of where your career went, but man, just where your game developed to because of that setting.
Yeah, I think this is always going to be uh, a tricky thing, especially for players coming up now. And probably when I was in the game too, in the high school level, is, you know, if you want to get to college at any level, like you have to be good at least at like one thing. Like you have to always be consistent at one thing. If you're a good defender and you pick up 94 feet, you need to do that every single game when these coaches are watching. If you're a shooter, you shoot. You know, if you're a rebounder, you rebound every single game. Once you become great at one aspect, then you can add the second piece to your game and third and fourth. And so for me, I knew who I was in high school. Like I was a dude that was unselfish, that could run a team and defend and get to the basket. So when I would go to these AU tournaments, I always focused on those things. Obviously, leadership was important, being the point guard and running the team. So I focused on those intangibles, and then my next layer that I needed to add, and obviously once I got to college, you know, you had to add this, was the shooting component. And so I knew going into these tournaments, like I wasn't going to just come in and just jack bad shots and left and right and you're gonna be wondering who's this Holt kid. He's focusing more on his offense and, you know, not taking care of business on the defensive end, and he's not leading, not talking, not rebounding, not doing all these little things. So, you know, for me, and I definitely want to voice this to kids out there who are trying to get noticed for college and stuff. You got to be great at what you do every single time. I mean, the biggest word I would say in this game of basketball is consistency. It's consistency. That's period. I mean, you look at why guys are in the NBA. You look at LeBron. You can pencil in 25 and 5 before every single game because he's that consistent. And so,
that's
you
the
know,
bottom.
I'm just saying the bottom. Like
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
25 and 5. You know what I'm saying? So again, if you put yourself in these college coaches shoes, like why are we recruiting this kid? Because he can consistently rebound, he can consistently be a leader, he can consistently break a press. Like you have all these checklists that you need to go through. So that's why you need to be consistent in one thing, then two, then three. And then once you're consistent in those four things, you always do those things, period. And so again, that's just how I was when I was coming up. Like I said, I knew who I was as a player. I wasn't going to change just because some coach was dangling a scholarship in front of me. Oh, you need to be a better shooter. Like, I know I need to work on some shooting, but I'm still going to be who I am on the court. And so that's just, again, the brand of basketball that I was one, playing at Jesuit, two, wanted to play with I-5 on the AU circuit, and three, again, it's just, those are just some tidbits that I just wanted to, just be who I was. So
Man, no, and I think the self-awareness of who you are allows you to be consistent, right? Like you're not going game to game or tournament to tournament based on who you're playing and making adjustments on
mhm.
this game I'm gonna do
And
this.
who's getting scholarships, and oh, I had 20 on this guy, why did he get the offer versus me? You can't get caught up in that game, because certain players at the end of the day fit in a certain system better, whether you like it or not. And alluding to my recruitment, like I'm still to this day, like I'm salty that I wasn't even offered by Oregon or Oregon State. Like
Mm.
in my backyard, like they were recruiting me and talking to me, but I never officially got an offer from either school. And whatever rivals at the time had me as the number 2 point guard on the West Coast and top 30 point guard in the nation and stuff. And other Pac-10 schools were talking to me, and I could have went to Stanford. Arizona came in late, but I was always wondering, like, why am I not getting the attention I thought I deserved? But maybe it's taking a step back from a coach's lens, like maybe I didn't fully fit their narrative for a program wise. So again, that's a challenge of these kids coming up in the game today, is just the self-awareness of you as a player, and then the um willingness to work on your weaknesses and just know when you can balance that out, whether be more aggressive on the offensive end. Sometimes you might have to take a few bad shots, but again, just the pillars of just playing hard, being a good teammate, just talking, those should never go away. So that's what's
Mm.
helped me even to this day as a professional.
I remember us talking on the plane coming back from Peach Jam, because Sean Miller, he had just got the job at
Mm-hmm.
Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I really like this Holt guy. I want to see the name take the next jump. So I'm going to come watch you guys in Vegas. I remember I met with everybody, but specifically talking to you, like, man,
Mm-hmm.
look at like Oklahoma State just hit me. This school, I was like, man, you can like kind of bolster into this. And we
Mm-hmm.
went there, and as we went, won the championship down in
Yeah.
Vegas. And I was going to say, to your point earlier, how do you know when the seal pops, when your recruiting can just take a jump like it did your sophomore year? So you got to stay your course. Like same thing with Rails. He kind of had WCC recruiting. He stays his course, and then we get to Vegas and Arizona, and then he gets Iowa State, Big
Mm-hmm.
12. So if you stay your course and stay consistent, like you're saying, that'll eventually come out. But if you're watching all these other cats getting offers and hearing the noise and the social media and all this different stuff, or worry about you got the next video, you're gonna get
Yeah.
derailed.
Yeah. And I mean, times have changed. Like when I was coming up, like if you got one Ball is Life mixtape, like you were that guy. Like I remember when Jonesy got his, like, oh man, we watched that, like still to this day, I know the song, like
Yeah.
it's crazy. And nowadays, like, kudos, with Swiss cultures across the water and all those Instagram platforms. Now, everybody can see what everybody's doing. So again, back then in those days, like if you got a mixtape, like you were that guy. Like I think Austin Rivers alluded to that too on his podcast maybe a couple weeks ago.
I saw
I think
that.
I saw that
Mhm.
maybe a couple weeks ago. He alluded to that too. Like he said that same thing. Like coming up, like if you had at least one Ball is Life mixtape, like you were that guy. But again, going back to what you asked, Beans, like again, consistency. It's all about that. Like as you can get these offers, and then you can play yourself out of them as well. I mean, it goes both ways.
Mm.
Just because if you have something, like a coach they can change their mind. It goes both ways. So it's just the nature of the business, and just with the timing of my recruitment, and what I wanted to do is, again, I was self-aware and was always going to stick to the script of what I wanted to do, and I mean it like, I wanted to commit to a college before my senior year started, because I just wanted to focus on, my last season with Jesuit, winning a state title, and that was my sole focus. So, you said after, that Vegas tournament, Arizona was super high on me after that, and a couple other big schools. But up until that point, like I just always felt St. Mary's and Coach Bennett and what they were preaching was always still at the top. Like it didn't matter who was going to come in late, because we built such a great relationship. So I always remember, I only took one official college visit, All I needed was one. And so I went down to St. Mary's beginning of my senior year in September, like I think the first weekend that they started school. And then I committed like the next week after that. And so I knocked it out and committed real soon. And again, I don't regret that decision at all. I mean, looking back, would have been different or cool to say I went to a Pac-10 school or wait on a bigger offer because my name was becoming more popular within the bigger realm of schools when people start talking, and once people commit to other schools and they have to keep going down their list and looking for the next player that they want. But I don't regret my decision at all, because again, it's what I wanted to do. I was self-aware with what I wanted to do, and I wanted to focus on my senior season with Jesuit and commit early to my college, and I was able to follow that path. So I was lucky.
Man, I love it, because I think that like you said, I mean, just looking at St. Mary's, and what Coach Bennett's done there as a program, and the stuff that's there has been consistent. So we just talk consistency as a player. Then you talk consistency as a program, obviously coming from one of Jesuit, that like, man, you know what you're gonna get
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
year in, year out, and you kind of have that there with Coach Bennett as well. And I think you just mentioned it, like maybe kind of did that before it was in vogue, right? Like it's maybe a little more known now that you can go to a St. Mary's, you can go to a WCC school and still get to the spots that you wanted to get to. And obviously, you mentioned wanting to be able to play professionally when you got done.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, just going through with what I wanted to do in college was, one, I wanted to come in and have an impact early as a freshman. And two, I wanted to, play in the NCAA tournament and win a championship. And three, develop. And, fast forward now, looking back at my career, I was able to do all three of those. I was able to have an impact as a freshman. I think, set steals record my very first game at 9 steals. Had the second highest season for steals my freshman year. And, we went to the NCAA tournament 2 years, NIT 2 years. So I was in the postseason for 4 years. And talk about development, like, again, like I wasn't a shooter, but you had to shoot to be at St. Mary's. So, my freshman year, that summer, man, couldn't shoot at all. Like I was struggling in these drills, and we would literally, after every drill, we'd say our scores and map our scores for every drill from summer, fall, March, like throughout the whole entire season. So when I zoomed out, like I could have gone back and seen my numbers from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year to senior year, and to see my percentage like go up is just proof of the development that St. Mary's and the coaches had, and Coach Bennett and how he develops his players. And man, I always remember this too. Like my freshman year at St. Mary's, I started the season 1 for 17. I started the season 1 for 17. And at one point, like I remember we was playing like BYU in a Thanksgiving tournament with Jimmer and that team in South Padre Island. And they had their 4-man guarding me, and he was backing off. And it was at that moment I realized, like, yo, like I can defend, I can get to the basket, I can do all these things, but the shooting is what's going to put this whole thing together. And it wasn't like I couldn't shoot a 3. Like I could shoot a wide open 3, but I wasn't coming off pick and rolls and one dribble pop or pin downs and pop or flares, anything like that. So my freshman year, I remember after that moment, I think we played like New Mexico State maybe 2 weeks later. I finally had my breakout game. I was like 3 for 4 from threes. And from that point on, I was able to get my percentage at least up to 30. And then fast forward to my senior year, I shot, I think, like 43, some percent like that from 3. So again, just to, come in with a plan of, hey, I want to get better at this and develop and trust the program and trust Coach Bennett, and to see how it paid off, like he totally changed my game. So, kudos to Coach Bennett. He's still doing his thing there and holding it down. And probably the coolest thing for me too is now I don't have to say, when I'm overseas and, I play with new American teammates, each year, like I don't have to say, oh yeah, St. Mary's, a small school from California anymore. Like I say St. Mary's, they know where St. Mary's is. Just from the national success and the brand that they've been building over the past few, 10 or so years. So I think that's a pretty cool thing now that I'm on the alumni side, like I can just say St. Mary's and people know exactly where it is.
Hell yeah, man. I want to hear, man, Mickey McConnell, Matthew Dellavedova, teammates of yours that are dogs.
Mhm.
Man, especially with Mickey, you coming in as a freshman. What was
Man,
what was your damn I'm here moment?
I'm here is when he kept busting my ass in shooting workouts. Because the year I committed was the year they went to the Sweet 16 when they beat Villanova and Mickey had that crazy shot with the bank. It's on YouTube. Everyone from St. Mary's knows it. But so I already knew he was a heck of a shooter. I think his senior year he shot almost 50% from three. So getting killed by him in workouts, Delhi, a couple of the other Aussie guys, I'm like, man, I can't be the worst shooting guard on our team. Like I have to work. Like I have to get better at this. And so, like I said, we would track every single shooting drill. And so I can see my progress from freshman year. Okay, my numbers are getting a little bit better. And then to the season. And then, okay, sophomore year, I make another jump. So it wasn't just a feeling that I was getting better. It was actual data saying, all right, you're getting better. And so we had a medal system like gold, silver, and bronze for how many shots you'd make. And so I wasn't medaling anything my freshman year, basically, like no medals, like nothing. I was shooting terrible.
Good.
By the time, I'm a senior, I'm getting golds and everything. So again, like, I knew I was getting better, but the data, told me I was getting better. And numbers don't lie. Like, all right, summer workouts, all those stuff is cool, but what is your field goal percentage in game time? Like, that's what matters. And that's what, eventually took off for me. So again, numbers don't lie. And, like I said, my coming to moment with Mickey and Delhi was they were just kicking my ass with shooting workouts and stuff. So I just hated losing, period. So.
If you're enjoying the Let's Talk Hoops podcast, make sure to follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube for more content on recruiting, player development, team development, basketball IQ, and more at Hoop Dreams B-Ball and at Coach C. Foss. Now, back to the show.
You're kind of hitting on something right now and talking about specific development, things to specifically develop on. And we have kind of a culture right now of how people work on their game. And just kind of like my thoughts, I think there's a lot of players are working on stuff that doesn't necessarily translate into the game or what they're actually going to do for their respective team. And you're hearing how you're very self-aware coming out of high school and in each setting, whether it was the AAU, high school, now into college, knowing what your role was, knowing your identity. But what do you think about like the development in today? Does it translate? Does it need to be adjusted? Do you have a better plan?
Again, yeah, I mean, you should be playing AAU if you are getting looks. Obviously you play AAU to get looks, but if you're in these tournaments and you're turning the ball over, you're taking bad shots, you're not, playing hard, there's no reason for you to be out there to begin with. So again, it just comes down to the fundamentals. And can you make a layup? One, can you make a contested layup? Can you shoot a layup over a shot blocker? Okay. What about the mid range? Can you come off a pick and roll and hit that elbow jump shot? Are you consistent with that? Or are you a better 3-point shooter? Coming out of high school and even to college, like I wasn't a 3-level scorer, I had to develop my 3-point shot because I could get to the cup. So I focused on, my 3-point shooting because that's how we played at St. Mary's. It was 4 out, 1 in mainly. And so we shot a lot of threes and played out of the post, split actions, mainly those areas. So I mainly focused on developing my 3-point shot. But then by the time I got to, my senior year, I focused even more emphasis on my mid-range, just trying to, come off the pick and rolls and just read what the defense gives me. Obviously, you can't just stop and pop every time from 3. Like if they're in drop, you can take 2 more dribbles, take that, shot at the, depending on where you are, 60 or 90 pick and roll or top, like right around that free throw elbow area. That floaters, those areas were probably the last I added to my game because for me, just speaking like how the game is now, like if you can't even just knock down a wide open 3-point shot, I mean, there's no way you can even have success in this game unless your role is to, be penetrate and kick and get to the lane or be a true defender. But again, I think in today's game, like you have to be able to, one, make your layups, and two, knock down at least open threes. But then again, it's all comes down to development. If you can do those things, then all right, now let's play you off the bounce. Then let's play, threes that way instead of just wide open threes. So I mean, the game of basketball there's so many layers and ways to develop, but again, it just comes down to the word we've been talking about is consistency. Like once you can do one thing, two things, five things, then work on the sixth thing. But until you can get that one thing, then keep working on that one thing. And again, for me, even to this day, like I just trying to stay consistent in what I'm good at, and maybe work on some things I'm not good at. But if I don't provide a team with shooting, defense, then I don't play. That's been my role in Europe, is shooting and defense. So
How do you work on your defense? Obviously, that's been something that you mentioned going way back to early in high school. And obviously have really good length for your position and some of that stuff, but moving up in levels, how do you continue to have that be something you hang your head on and get even better? As you're progressing now in your career.
Man, so it's crazy how much I've learned since I graduated St. Mary's and going into my 10th season overseas now, just with the IQ, just pick and roll, just the different coverages and the rotations, and going from the guy that wouldn't be as vocal but would know where to go defensively, to where now I'm the one that's yelling at my teammates, you go here, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. And for me, I was always best on ball. I mean, to this day, I always feel like I'm best on the ball, and so I've always had to work on my off ball defense, not turning my head, just stuff like that. But working on your defense, I feel like mostly you can is in practice and in games. That's when you get the real feel for it. But to take a step back from there, I think it's just with just conditioning and getting in the weight room as well, because you need to, if you're going to be sliding and picking up 94 feet, you need to be in condition. You got to have, strong legs and agility and quick movement. So it goes down to the weight room, being in a really good shape and taking care of your body. So I feel like those aspects allow you to potentially play good defense, but it just all comes down to your mind and your mindset, and in practice. It starts in practice, and then you try and have that translate into the game.
Conditioning like the St. Mary's mile board.
Come on.
The sad thing about it is I get a tweet from Beans every week with that mile board, and I'm at like 4, but now at that board I'm like 13. Like I'm probably off the board now. That's how much it's changed. Like just the athleticism these kids are coming up in the game, and just the access they have to recovery, like everything. Like they're just it's good to see. But yeah, I need to send you an updated picture, because I'm not top 5 anymore on that board. It's crazy.
Send it to us. Speaking on that, because you just talked about how conditioning is so important for you now at the pro level. Obviously it was at all your different levels. Just in terms of like going through that grueling the mile, and how you were able to get your mind right to compete at it. Because I remember you running a similar time, like a 5:06 or something like that, 5:04, when we ran it at Hawthorne Farm, when I had started working with you back again in high school. You always were somebody who was in good condition. So just talk about how like that impacted you there, or if you felt like you was already ready for it.
Yeah, well, it just goes back to when I was super young. Like I just didn't want to get taken out of the game. So I just always thought, like, if I don't get tired, I don't have to come out. So it's as simple as that. Like it's I mean, it's crazy to say, but it's like if you're not tired, then you can keep playing. So that was just kind of like my mindset just growing up, even, at Jesuit. Like it was a little bit more, balanced with subs and stuff. But when I was I was picking up 94 feet, period. Like Foss knows that Jesuit press. Like we was pressing for 4 quarters, and and you had to be in shape, like, or else you couldn't, one, have success, or two, you wouldn't play. So again, it just comes down to your mindset and your willingness to, sacrifice. I mean, no one wants to run the mile, no one wants to do these sprints and stuff, and um, even thinking about St. Mary's, like, we had what was called like the Triple Crown. You'd have to make your mile time. We had what was called an Ironman, so you wouldn't be late to workout or not get injured. Speaking through the fall, so you have to make your mile, be an Ironman, and then 3, make your conditioning, which was called the Triple Crown. And I was the first player in the program to have a Triple Crown all 4 years when I was at St. Mary's. So I made my mile, didn't miss a workout, was never late, and my conditioning, I made every single sprint and didn't miss a sprint. So I was the first person to get that done. So I'm actually pretty pumped about that. I always like to brag to my former teammates and players coming up, because I don't think anyone's done that since. I need to talk to Coach B about that, but I don't think anyone's done a Triple Crown all 4 years that they've been at the school. So yeah, I think that was pretty cool.
That's off the meat racks. That's a Michael Jordan.
Yeah, it's again, it also too. I mean, obviously, I did everything I could to take care of my body, and obviously, I got lucky with injuries. But again, this was just for the fall period.
You didn't get lucky.
Big tour.
No, you didn't get lucky. Being in tip-top condition, elite condition, and having basketball IQ, and then we heard him talk about self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You put yourself in particular situations that allow for you not to get injured. Other people, if your conditioning is not right or your IQ is not there, put yourself into positions that injure you. Oh, what do you mean? Example, now you're letting somebody go by you. And so now you're going to try to go from the behind and block it. But then now there's 4 feet down there and you land on somebody's foot and sprain your ankle. You didn't need to experience a sprained ankle. You're like, oh, it's just the luck of the draw. No way, Jose. You were bad at closeouts and didn't contain your man. He went by you, try to make a grand slam play. So that's just my take. I don't think injuries are luck, and then you not get injury is luck. I think that there is a science to it, and you lived in it.
Yeah, it's especially now. I'm going into year 10 overseas. Like, if you talk to anybody that's played in Europe, man, it's just a different beast with these practices and all the things you have to balance. Just again, maybe not getting your money on time, like you're late 1, 2, 3 months, or not getting paid, or you got a whole fan base just tweeting at you, DMing you, just hate words and all this stuff, or you play a bad game and the exact same thing, and with the threat of getting cut, like, and then also, like I said, these 2-a-day practices, like, everybody goes through it. Like, you truly have to be mentally tough to make it in Europe, especially, again, as long as I did, as long as Dom did, you guys talked about that on his episode. But again, it's crazy to see, the talent of players that have been, first round draft picks, maybe played in the NBA for a few years, and they go overseas and get their ass kicked. Like, it's just a totally different beast to what we're traditionally built up with college and, the G League and being in the NBA fringe and just that lifestyle, because Europe is just, it's just different. So
what was the biggest adjustment for you going over there? I mean, obviously you had a couple of stops before you got to Europe. You were in Australia, you were in the D League, but what was biggest adjustment for you?
Training camp.
Yep.
Man, the biggest adjustment was like, man, this is my job. Like, I don't have to go do a test later in math class or social studies. Like, this is my job. Like, I wake up, morning practice, you have weights, shooting, whatever. You come back, you got to do recovery, and then you get ready for night training. And sometimes we have 2 days and both practices would be taped. Like, we'd go full tilt 5-on-5 for the morning and 5-on-5 in the evening. It hasn't happened at every team I played in for Europe, but I just feel like that was the biggest adjustment. Like, what do I do with all this free time? Like, do I really like lock in my craft, or and stuff like that, or and for me, like, I can just being in the game for so long, and for these players coming up, like, the biggest thing that helped me adjust was just immersing myself into whatever culture and country I was in. Like, hanging out with my teammates, going to restaurants, coffee in between practice, like sightseeing, like actually going out and doing stuff instead of just solely focusing on basketball practice and whatever you do downtime, just Netflix, video games. Like it's important to connect with whatever city and culture you're in, because then it'll be just so much better experience. And the fans will see you out wherever you are in public, and take pictures with you and say, keep working hard, good luck. And it's just also a good motivational factor. Like, if you're out and people support you like that, that's not, American. Like it makes you just want to work harder and return to try and, do the best we can on the court and win a championship. So it goes both ways. So I feel like, just immerse yourself in the culture, try the food, sightsee, travel, and then obviously lock in the gym in your free time and in practice. So I think it goes hand in hand both ways.
That's fresh, man. And I want to keep us talking about, because I feel like we talked a little bit about that with Dami, but where if you really are passionate and driven about basketball, it sounds like it's counter, but to be really great, I think you got to find these good times to where you totally detach from basketball, and what you're just talking about there, being able to do some stuff, because if not, it's like it's almost putting way too much pressure on you, but also you're not becoming who you're really supposed to be. That's one part of your identity. And I think the bigger piece, connecting with the culture, but connecting with the people to build relationships. You're in such an amazing opportunity outside of the States, like a lot of people don't get to do. And now around people that other people aren't privy to, building these relationships that now are global, not just domestic.
Man, I've always have a battle with my wife to this day. After a game and have one day off during the week, do I just sit at home and rest, or do we drive to Budapest 3 hours and go sightsee and stuff like that? So, for example, I was been playing in Oradea, city in Romania these past 3 years, and Budapest, Hungary is like a 2-3 hour drive away from us. So she would always like to go out there, and I'd always have to have that battle with her, like, oh man, we played a tough game. My body's hurting. Like I need at least one day to do nothing. But nah, we gotta, go out and sightsee and get some good food. So there's always those little battles. But at the end of the day, like, basketball and this life that I'm living is finite. Like it's gonna come to an end. So I just gotta take advantage of all these different countries I've played in, all these, teammates I've played with, and just the people in the clubs and the cities that I've met. Like again, it's just gonna make your life so much easier when you get outside of your bubble, your comfort zone, and you actually try and learn some languages. You try and speak the language. You eat the food and all this. So again, it's always a battle, but it's at the end of the day, it's important to get outside your comfort zone.
Man, the off day, do I or don't I, is something that I don't care if you're playing
It's
overseas or,
yeah.
or if you're playing at home, man. When I was the past couple years at Portland State, everything is familiar, but it's still man, do I go try something new while I'm out here? Do I go to PDX Sliders tomorrow? Do I go to a movie? Or do I just need to sit my ass in bed and actually get a day of recovery?
That's life. That's life for you. Doesn't matter what profession. So we all experience it. So
For sure. For sure. Man, what Steve, obviously going into year 10, talk a little about the challenge of your 10 years in. Obviously, you talked about being self-aware of your game. How do you find things to work on now going into year 10, and not get bored with that process that, you mentioned before we even got on, that it's became kind of automated, right? Like there's a routine that's each summer I have this amount of time. I'm home for this period of time before I go back to training camp. But how do you find still like the ways to be able to continue to develop and add something new to your game, as you're in the fourth year with the same program and 10th year plan?
I mean, just thinking about how my career curve has went, the first like 4 or so years, I was mainly, on the ball playing point guard, just, being a distributor, scoring in those ways. And then, like I said, shooting was always the thing that I needed to work on. And then obviously St. Mary's, after I graduated there, I was known as a shooter. And I would say even today, like my 3-point shot is what I'm known for. And so for the last maybe 5 or so years, I've mainly been playing off the ball as a shooting guard. Just seeing how my, position even has changed just because of my skill and what coaches and these teams were looking for in Europe. So, I've had to adjust my mindset each season, just knowing that, okay, like I might be off the ball a little bit more, but I better be damn good at my role, coming off flares, pin downs, all sorts of different floppy actions, you name it. Like that's how my game has changed these last 3 or 4 years. And again, I think since I'm, going into 10 years in the game, I feel like, my agent's talking about this, like, what you're going to get, from Stephen Holt. Like he's, knockdown 3-point shooter. He's going to play defense. He's going to, be a good teammate, and he's here to win. So, I'm self-aware of those qualities. I feel like I've been repeating this over and over and over, but, I know what I'm good at. And the fact I've been able to play this long in Europe is because I know what I'm good at. And so for me, my weaknesses have always been, in the mid-range area, floaters, again, finishing with contact. Those are probably my two areas that I've continued or tried to continue to work on throughout the whole entire season. And obviously never take a step back in what I'm good at. So, yeah, I mean, those are some little tidbits that for me have helped me try and develop. And again, just having the mentality of, okay, this is what, it's not a bad thing either to know what you're good at and do it every single time. Like there's nothing bad about that. I mean, there's players in the NBA that can only, rim run and rebound, and they get paid millions of dollars. So again, it's a good thing to know what you're good at, and again, to be consistent in it. And the development part, I mean, I'm 31. I don't know how many more years I got left, probably, 3, 4, we'll see, with injuries, knock on wood, just stay healthy. But, at this point in my journey, my career, teams are going to know what they get with me.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, it's empowering. I think that Beans and I, we've talked this quite a bit. I think that when you're playing a role, if you're to say it's a role, I think so many people look at that as a limiting thing, that you play a role. I mean, you talked about like, man, my role now is to defend and play off the ball and knock down shots. That's not a limiting thing. It actually man, it's empowering. I think that you go into a spot and you know what it is that you're going to do, and you can stay away from all the other stuff that might not have value. It might be fluff that's there, but it's guiding you to where you're at your best, and your team knows exactly what you're going to get. Not just the clubs and when you sign and all that stuff. The guys who are playing with you, they know exactly what they're getting out of you on a game to game basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, Europe is crazy. It's a different business, just on and off the court. I've had some horror stories of a team kicking me out of my apartment and trying to cut me. And I had another horror story where I didn't get paid for 3 months, and then I had to leave, and I didn't get any money from that team. Like I feel like if you play in Europe, you're gonna at least have one or two like crazy, stories. And I've gone through that. But on the flip side, like, the positive experiences, getting to play in some of the best leagues in the world, Spain, ACB, playing in BTB league with Russia, in Russia, ABA Liga, Australia's blowing up now. Like just getting to play in those leagues. Like I know I haven't reached the Euro League level, but just to even just to be playing in those top tier leagues has just been a great experience. So at each road or each step my journey, I've set goals, and if I've fallen a little bit short, like I just never settle. I keep working. Like I'm just going to keep working, keep focusing, and being who I am. And I guess that's why I've been able to play overseas for 10 years. And again, I don't take that for granted at all, because, I've had former teammates and, players that I've played against, and now they don't play anymore for, they've been overseas maybe 3 or 4 years and just couldn't do it for whatever reason. Like maybe, unfortunately, maybe injury, maybe just homesick, can't handle the pressure, a bunch of stuff. So, again, it's a big sacrifice being away from family and friends for these 9-10 months, but this is what I wanted to do when I was young, and I'm thankful I'm still in the game.
You got goals set already for this year?
Right now, I mean, I'm still, working with my agent and what's our game plan as far as making our next move for next season. I think for me now, it's just getting my body right, getting healed, and again, man, it's just really just stay the course. Like it's worked to this point. Just got to stay healthy. Just got to keep being hungry, and hopefully these opportunities will keep coming up for me. So again, I feel like I don't know if I've thought about this year or just because I knew I was gonna be on this podcast, but now I'm more than like on the back end of my career. Just to call it what it is. I'm 31. Like probably just outside my prime, and got maybe 3-4 years left. So now my mindset has to change. Like I got all these young cats coming up trying to take my job. Like they want the next, Stephen Holt. They want the next younger version of Stephen Holt. So that's the next battle that I'm gonna have to face, starting for sure this upcoming year because I'll be 32. And in Europe times, like, all these 2-a-day practices and all this grind, man, my body feels it's probably like 34, but I've been feeling good. I haven't gotten injured or any serious injuries overseas, but I think my mindset probably is going to have to change this summer is now, I'm really, on the older side of these things. So now I'm going to have to keep, fighting off these young cats who literally, coming from my job and stuff. So yeah, that's how my mindset's going to change this year.
Fresh. Hey, well, man, we didn't kept you a long ass time. I appreciate you dropping it on us. I got one more for you, and then Foss will hit you with our closing question. But I wanted to see you just talk a little bit about seeing where now a bunch of the hoop dreamers and I-5 elite guys are now in some different positions. Like, I mean, you're still playing 10 years. You got players that were playing, but now doing like Potsy's doing a podcast with T. Ross. You got with the Rockets and Mose and G Jack there. Pooh just got assistant GM job with the G League team from the Blazers and an assistant coach there. I mean, it's how do you feel about all that? You getting to see all these players that you came up with, being a part of that group and community. How's that feel?
Man, it's what we do. We work hard and take care of each other, period. I mean, I was just actually on FaceTime with Mosey and G-Jack before Summer League. One of my teammates out in Romania, who's actually good friends with Dom, FaceTime me because he's with the Hawks right now coaching. And he's like, yo, I got some friends that want to say hi to you. And he turns the camera and it's Mosey and G-Jack. So I actually said hi to them last week. So, it's good to see your teammates and players from Portland having success, period. I mean, I always remember our battles, not even just playing with them, but just the battles that Garrett and I had in the Metro League, him going to Westview, me at Jesuit. We were both 1 and 2 in the state that are both our senior years. Like, man, I'll always remember those battles against Mosey. Like we were roommates for that one trip that I played in the 17s for that one summer in LA when I moved up. That was the first time opportunity I got to get to learn who Mike really was. He wasn't this crazy energetic guy on the court. He's actually humble and well spoken and a good dude. And then obviously we had our battle in high school because Grant had won the state title the previous year. So going into my junior year, we had to beat the champs to become the champs. And so we beat Grant at Matt Court in the Final Four. I always remember that game. Like Grant always produces great players and stuff. So that's a cool story between me and Mike. But yeah, I mean, again, just going down the list, seeing how everyone's being successful and carving out their own careers, I think it's just super important and just comes down to what we're all about. Like even on the AU scene, like every single day we had to prove ourselves just because we were from Portland. Like we got nothing was handed to us. Like all these dudes from Portland, they weak. Let's go on to the next team. But no, we had to show out and prove why we were as skilled and talented as we were. And so again, everybody that's from the I-5 circle, I know works hard and is never gonna take no for an answer. They're gonna find a way to get it done. So yeah, I'm happy for everybody.
That's fresh. I remember you sent me that picture out in Romania that you had played against Jake Spurgeon, who was a young,
yeah,
10 years or whatever, or 8 or so years gap from you with the I-5 stuff, but he randomly sends me pictures like, man, look at us, Portland I-5 in the building.
It's crazy, man. I gotta say this though, just because it's on the podcast, but my record against other 503 members is horrendous, and that's one thing that I'm so salty about. Like, I'm below 500. I lost to Mike in Spain when he was in Baskonia, and when he was in Cesca, I'm 0 for 2 against Mike. Who else I lose? I lost to what's his name, Vic Sanders. This year in Europe Cup, we lost on the road. We needed to win in his gym to move on to the next round. They ended up winning Europe Cup, so I lost to Vic. We chopped it up a little bit during the game. I remember we were running down guarding each other. He's like, "Oh, hey, you from Portland, right?" And like, you I-5, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm from the town." Blah blah blah. Like, so one shout out to the young bull for that. Like, he did his thing in Europe Cup, but yeah, it's crazy. I would play against Brad Tinsley. You remember Brad Tinsley from Oregon City, Vanderbilt? Like, he just retired, I think, this past year. Played against him when he was in Portugal, in Europe Cup. We went 1-1. I'm trying to think who else I played from Portland. I think that's about it. So, but yeah, it's still below 500, so it's not good enough for me. But it is what it is.
Man, we got to line up another matchup for you so you can get that thing back on the winning side.
I know. Hopefully next year we'll run into some more 503 members.
There you go. Well, man, you talked early, really early on in life, falling in love with hoop, and how much that's meant to you. But obviously, we've hit on, man, there's the ups and downs kind of along the journey. That I think nobody's path is linear just to get into a spot that's successful. What's the toughest thing you've had to endure with basketball during your journey?
Toughest thing. Man, it's probably two things. I think one, just again, we come back to the consistency word. Like, one good season can change your trajectory in Europe, and one bad season can change your trajectory as well. Like, it goes both ways. And I think that the first roadblock, the toughest thing for me was one, I started out in the G League, had a really good season. Then that was my rookie year. And then my second season, I was able to go to Australia, which was at that time an upcoming league. It wasn't as where it is now, but that was kind of like my stepping stone, a really, really good season. And then from there, I immediately, went to Spain, ACB. So in my mind, I'm thinking I'm already 2 years into the game, and I'm already reached like one of the top leagues in Europe. Like, I thought I made it at that time. Like, I thought, oh my goodness, like I just got to keep doing this. But then for whatever reason, when I was with Zaragoza in Spain, like, looking back at it, like, I probably should have never went there, just because I had a couple other better offers on the table coming back to Australia, maybe Italy and one other country. But I signed without even talking to the coach. Like, I signed, with not knowing a bunch of stuff. I just wanted to, play there. So it was definitely, I didn't do my due diligence and homework, I should say. And so that season kind of stalled my progression in Europe. I always pinpoint that moment in time, like, oh man, like, if I could have done this different, I for sure would have done that different. Like, who knows where I would have been at in this whole, European game. And then the second biggest challenge, obviously, was when I lost my dad 3 years ago. I think just had him being my mentor and just just being there for me with my development. He's the one, put the ball in my hands, and he's the one who would text me, "Good luck, son," before a game and give me advice. And then after that first season, not even first season, just those first few games, not receiving a text, not, phone call after the game to decompress. Like, that was probably the biggest challenge for me as a player, just trying to adjust to that. I'm trying not to get emotional, but it is what it is. But man, fast forward now, 3 years later, I'm definitely more mature. Handling that. My family's been great. My Dukes, Alyssa, my sister, and my wife, they've been holding it down. But again, just losing my mentor, that was super tough. But I was able to bounce back and, again, continue this journey that we started. I feel like, me and my dad started this journey together since he, played in college and, was my coach, for majority of my life before, I went into the AU scene. But again, I always call him my coach and my mentor. So losing him was probably the toughest thing in my career, probably.
Hey, I got a story about your dad. Do you remember
Hit
when
me.
we were at I-5 and we were in LA? So I forget what we were doing, but were sightseeing or something, and then we had our game, and I got us on some side of LA that I didn't know where to go, and we
Mm-hmm.
were like, if I went our way, we wasn't gonna make the game. Like it was gonna take us out.
Was it
Like
the one we were running to the gym? We were running to the game.
I had to call your dad when we were on the road, like, yo, man, I just like passed the Staples Center. I'm here. And he's like, oh, no, you're good. Man, he talked to me the whole way, kept me on the phone, and led us back there. That's when we had to get out the vans,
And
run
we
on the court,
sprinted.
like
Yeah.
throw our stuff on like seconds before the game went. But he had to give me direction because he's from LA.
He's from LA. Yep.
Yep.
Pops is from LA. I remember running this out of I didn't know I can't remember that you called my dad about that,
I
but it makes
called him.
sense now.
I didn't know nobody else to go. And I remember he was from LA. I'm like, hey, man, we're lost right now. He was like, oh, no, you're the wrong direction. You shouldn't be up by the Staples Center. You got to take the 405 to the 125. And
Yeah, all that. And it wasn't before the smartphones. Like you had the map quest or the whatever sheet of paper. And if you lost the turn, then it
I
was
was
over.
lost.
So.
He talked me through on the phone the whole way. And then I remember a few years ago when he had passed, that was when we were reconnecting and talking a lot on the phone over and talking about crypto and different stuff, but just talking life too.
No, man, it's crazy. It definitely comes full circle. And man, with that sad news, it's crazy. Like my wife and I are expecting our first child, and he's supposed to be born on or around my dad's birthday in September. So if that doesn't say anything that from the man above, like God is always good. So I got a little boy on the way, middle of September. It's gonna be born on or around his birthday. So that's probably one of the craziest experiences that I've even been around to hear. Like, how does that happen? Like, man, God is good.
All the time, man. Well, praying for you guys that your baby boy comes out healthy and
Mm.
man, everything with that. So man, that's so awesome to hear.
Man, I appreciate you guys as always, man. It's all love over here, and if you guys need anything from me, I'm always here. And again, it was a lot of fun to jump on here and talk some IQ and catch up on some old stories. And again, you guys are always family, so this is what we do. From 503, this is what we do. We all family.
Much love. Thank you so much for doing this. You know what it is. We'll have to connect while you're here. Maybe get you in the gym or go grab a bite to eat while you're here. And then, man, you already know whatever you need, don't hesitate to ask. Any way I can help.
No, sounds good. Sounds
Tell
good, you
your
guys.
mom, Jackie, I said what's up, and your
Oh,
sister.
100%. 100%.
If you like this episode of Let's Talk Hoops, make sure to follow, subscribe, and share to keep the conversation going.